Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's success story, where we are going to be speaking with Sheri about their journey through medicine and how they got to a residency match today. So, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, thanks again, everybody. And I'm super excited to be here and ready to answer some questions about my story.
Great. Can you tell us what specialty you matched into and which program?
So I solely applied to internal medicine. So I applied for internal medicine and I got into my number one choice at Piedmont Athens in Georgia. So I'm super excited about it.
Congrats. Yes, a lot to be happy about.
Yes, nerve-wracking, but happy.
Yeah. And your journey to get there has not been altogether straightforward, has it?
No, it has not at all. It's like, in life, when you're a child, you have these, quote unquote, how you think your life's going to be. And, as a child, I thought that, I wanted to be a physician. That course never changed. I knew as a child that I wanted to become a physician. So basically, throughout my entire childhood, I did everything that would get me to that point.
Mhm.
So, and the reason why I knew is because I loved my pediatrician.
Wow.
And I just loved everything about that man. Like, I loved that pediatrician. He just really felt like family to me. He never made me feel nervous or anything like that. So after going to a couple of pediatrician appointments, I told my parents when we were in the car, I said, I want to be a physician. And they were like, okay, like third grader is like, oh yeah, I want to be a I want to be a captain, I want to be a teacher, I want to be an astronaut. At that young age, your parents are just like, okay, sure, like no problem, do whatever. So they're like, okay, but I was dead serious about becoming a physician like as early as in third grade. And so when my mom was pregnant with my brother, the middle, because I'm the oldest, so it's three of us.
Okay.
So my brother is the middle, and the youngest is younger. But when she was pregnant with Connor, my brother, I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to shadow. Like, I'm gonna ask your doctor, can I shadow her?
I love it.
So I
Perfect.
shadowed Dr. Lestrap in Fort Worth, Texas. That's where we were living at the time. And because I come from a military background, long story short, I have family in the military. I moved around a lot. So at that particular time, we were at Fort Worth, Texas, and I asked Dr. Lestrap, I said, hey, I'm really interested into medicine. Do you mind if I shadow you? So she said, sure. I mean, so she taught me like a lot of the ultrasound techniques, like how to find the baby. And that was in seventh or eighth grade. So I was like around maybe 12 or 13 at the time. And I was like, I really want to see the C-section. And so you just imagine a 12-year-old kid sitting in the corner,
Oh
just
my God.
like as she's pulling the fallopian tubes, like, here's the fallopian tube, here's the baby, like everything. She's just like pointing everything out. And they're like, are you feeling sick? Or you feel woozy? And I was just like,
I
no,
love
like, I want to see, I love
it.
this. Like, I want to see more. And so from that point on, I like that was just like the seal that I knew that for sure that I wanted to do it. Cause I don't know any 12-year-old that's sitting on surgeries looking at fallopian.
Boy.
So from that point, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go into pre-med. So
Hmm.
about 12 or 13, I knew for sure like what course I was going to take. So I started volunteering at local hospitals like Cook Children's Hospital, and I volunteered during that time. And then fast forward to make pre-med major. So I was a biology major in college and I was a minor in chemistry. So basically throughout my college course, I did everything that had to do with medicine. So at the time, I was doing research. I was a tutor for all the biology courses. I was a microbiology lab assistant. I was a part of this thing called Undergraduate Medical Academy that basically was for students who wanted to go into either veterinary school, medical school, dental school, and they basically provided you scholarships, and they also allowed you to go to all the medical schools. and they helped me they actually paid for one of my MCAT courses
Wow.
to, yeah, so I owe them a lot. So, and then like the Kaplan, Princeton, in-person courses that are like $4,000 or $5,000. So they paid for that. And I had this idea where, as soon as I get out of college, I'm going to go into medical school right out. But that didn't go as planned. So I actually took the MCAT 3 times. So with the MCAT, I started studying for the MCAT maybe junior year of college. But at that time, I was also taking 17-hour coursework as well as working as a lab assistant and a tutor. So at night, so during the day, I was in class from basically 8 to 4. And then from about 4:30 to about 7 o'clock, I was in tutor or being a lab assistant for biology or microbiology. And then from 7:30 p.m. to 10 o'clock at night, I was in downtown Houston taking a Kaplan course. So I thought that, I can do it. I'm Superwoman. I can do all this stuff. I can take it. And I got my score back and I was like, it was like a 20. I was like, okay, no, I can't get into medical school with a 20. Like, that's not going to happen. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to, take it back a little bit. And so I was like, I'm going to study again for the MCAT. So I studied again for the MCAT. I got all the way to the end of the MCAT and I got super anxious and I deleted the test.
Wow.
So I sat there. So long story short, I've always had a little bit of testing anxiety,
Mhm.
and it started to come back towards that MCAT, trying to get into medical school. I basically got rid of it and then it came back. So I sat down for the entire, 6-hour test. And this is when they made the change of MCAT to like the cars and the psych. So I got all the way to the end of the MCAT and I was just like, delete. So at the second time, I did it. And by that time, I was like, you know what? Let me just try to apply with the 20 that I have. So I applied, and of course, I got denial letters. So by the time I got denial letters, I was almost about to graduate.
Mhm.
So I was like, crap. Like, I didn't think that, I was going to not go into medical school right off the bat. So, with that being said, I think that a lot of people, when you plan out your life and you have these certain expectations for yourself, and then you have your own life in college and you start doing things and you're doing well in college and you think that everything is going to go the way that you originally planned and it doesn't. I think that people don't talk a lot about what happens after college,
Mhm.
because especially if you're trying to go to, get even more education and you have that gap, there's a lot of like anxiety, sometimes depression that goes along into that, because you think you're a quote unquote failure and you're not necessarily a failure. You're just having to go about it a different way.
Absolutely.
So during that time, I said, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to try to keep my feet planted in medicine. So I graduated like that Friday or Saturday. And that Monday, I was on a flight to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill at medical school to do an internship. So I did that internship for over the summer. And basically, it was a mimic of first year of medical school. So we did like literally, we had cadavers, we had the same people that teach the microbiology, the biochemistry. We were taking the same exact classes that you would normally take in the same exact test. So it provided you a little bit of clarity of like, okay, I can actually do this, so I did pretty okay. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stick with it. And so after that, I finished that. And then I was like, I still need to stay rooted in medicine, even though I'm studying for MCAT. So I took a little time off to study for MCAT, but um, after I took during in between the end of my MCAT and toward of applying to medical school again, I was also working.
Yes.
because I need some money. And so during that time in the morning, I actually was a research assistant at UTHSC Neurology Department in Memphis, Tennessee. Like I said before, like my parents in the military, like I moved around a lot. So they were in Memphis at this time. And from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., I was growing neurons from stem cells that were extracted from teeth.
Wow.
So after I did that, I would go because UTHSC, they have like their medical school, their dental school, their PA school all connected. So they have
Hmm.
a gym. So I would go after I got off work, I would go to the gym, take a shower, and then put on my scrubs because I worked overnight as a scribe.
That's
So as
so
a
much.
scribe, I know it's like, girl, what are you doing? So from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., I took a shower from about 4 to 4:30. Then I drove to Baptist Memorial Hospital, which is about 10 to 15 minutes away from UTHSC. And then I would sleep in my car for like until 7:30 p.m. And I would walk in and be a scribe from 7 to 7 a.m.
What kept you going in that time period to be able to put yourself through that with, so little sleep and just so much time being
Mhm.
active?
It was just I knew that I knew what I wanted to do. I've always known what I wanted to do, so I was going to make any sacrifices that I needed to make in order to pursue that dream and keep myself in medicine, because I think that sometimes when you take these gap years, you can become a little distracted, or you get a job and you start making money and you're like, do I really want to go back to school because I'm starting to make money? But no, I was still making money and I still wanted to pursue medicine, so I kept my goal and my dreams in the forefront. And I knew that I just wanted to become a physician. So whatever route I had to take to whether they get more research experience, to get more clinical experience, if I was going to sleep, if I was going to have to sleep in my car to take a nap for 2 to 3 hours, that's what I was going to do. And that was just the bottom line for me.
It's really
So yeah.
incredible that you're able to have that perseverance of mind and body and spirits and just keep pushing through to, get towards
Right.
your goal. So, how long were you doing that before you took the MCAT again and then applied to medical school?
So that was all during my gap year.
Okay.
So I graduated in May 2015. I did the internship over the summer at UNC. And
Mhm.
then I had a couple of months of just dedicated study time for MCAT. So then I retook the MCAT and I was like, 490. I think it was like a 495-ish. I don't remember exact numbers, but it was closer to like 500. So I was like, you know what? This is okay. Like I can work with that. And so that was about yeah, that was everything during my gap year, because after I got my scores back, I was like, okay, I can either apply to US medical schools and wait another year, or I can go to Ross and start in August, because I've already taken a gap year and I didn't want to spend any more extra time, um, you know, doing this if I had a shot, especially since what was funny is the people I worked with, the ER physicians that I worked with, went to Ross.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew more about Ross based off their experience. And my previous department of biology also went to go visit to see if that was a potential space for medical students who wanted to pursue medicine. And I was talking with her as well as the ER scribes during that time, and I was just like, I'm just going to take it. So I applied in early 2016 and I got in. And after I got in, I was still working. So I decided to start school August 2016. So that was exactly a little bit over a year of me doing all of that stuff.
So you finally got into medical school after a year of this,
Yes.
let's call it trials, perhaps.
Right.
And how did it feel once you got into medical school and you're back, like truly on track with, okay, this is
Mhm.
the next step I need to take to become a physician? How was that
Right.
process and that feeling when you got to medical school?
So it was actually funny how I found out about it. So it was actually on April Fool's Day that I got my acceptance.
Wow.
So, I was going, I actually went to the restroom and I was in between, growing the neurons at that morning and cleaning out all the cells that were dead and etc. And I got this email that was like, "Oh, welcome to um, the class of August 2016." And I was like, what class am I? Because they forgot to send me my acceptance letter and they added me to a Facebook group. So I'm like, why am I getting added to a Facebook group for medical school and I'm not even in? So I thought it was a joke. Like I thought somebody made it up and knew I was doing it. So um, I called them and I was like, I got this weird thing from Facebook saying I got a invite to go into medicine. And they were like, "Oh no, something happened. You it didn't send to the email address and it was supposed to come after you got the acceptance." So I literally just started bawling, crying, just in the bathroom, just crying. And I called my parents and I was just like, I finally got in. I finally got in. I'm leaving. I'm gonna do it. So it was just such a relief of I finally did it. But I also knew at the same time that I had a lot of work ahead of me because I knew it was going to be a transition of being out of school. But my overall feeling was relief and that I actually had a shot to pursue medicine.
Yeah, I can imagine that moment just being so
Right.
powerful, such a release, knowing that you got into that next step. So
Exactly.
how was medical school in how were the first 2 years and then
Mhm.
your rotations and everything? How did that go for you?
So the first 2 years, so Ross originally was located in Dominica.
Mhm.
And I say originally because, unfortunately, we were hit by Hurricane Maria, the Category 5 hurricane, and they relocated to Barbados. So the first 2 years, so the way that Ross sets up their semesters is so in US medical schools, you basically go from one semester from January to May, you have that summer off, and then from August to December, you have your second semester. But Ross is year round. So from semester one would be January to end of April, and then semester two would be May to August, and then semester three would be September to December.
Mhm.
So I was able to my plan was to do everything in 16 months. But I got there and I was a little shocked
Mhm.
because I've always wanted to live outside the country. So that part wasn't the issue. It was more of the amount of volume of information that I needed to know at a short period of time was very overwhelming for me. So I got to what they call mini one, which was the first exam, and I failed it with flying colors, like fail, 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 fail. I got like a 69 or 68 or something like that. And I was just like, that was just a huge just blow to
Punch in the
me. And I was
gut. Yeah.
it's not like I'm down the street from my parents' house and I can go home and, like, no, I'm in Dominica and I felt this test and I'm spending all this money to be here. So I need to get myself together. So from that point on, after you fail a test, Ross has this thing called like academic teaching and learning, which is ATL. And they try to have a tutor, that fits your needs in order to make sure you don't make the same mistakes again. So we went through the test and it was like simple mistakes that
Mm.
I was making just because I was overwhelmed by the material. And then I found a tutor. So after I found a tutor, my grades started going up because I
Yeah.
think I needed more of that one-on-one trying and being able to bounce off someone who already knew the information.
Right.
Because sometimes when you bounce off people that are learning with you, you guys are both leading blind, the two blind mice. You're the two blind mice. So I need someone who already knew the information that I could bounce off of. So I really use that. And I also utilize my professors. Even though
Mhm.
Ross has a higher influx of students at the beginning of each semester, I still was able to have that one-on-one time with the professors.
Mhm.
So I was going to all of their office hours. And I was like, I don't really understand this. And if I wasn't able to get all the answers that was available during that time period, I would ask my tutor. So I was literally going through all the resources that were available to me, and my grades started to increase.
Yeah.
But due to me still trying to figure it out, Ross provides you, even after you pass the first semester, they provide you with two curriculums. You can either do accelerated, which is 4 semesters, or you can do curriculum, which is 5 semesters.
Mhm.
And the difference between accelerated and curriculum is that there's little breaks of extra study time in between each block. So,
Yeah.
say for instance, in semester 2, the first month you're doing cardio and pulmonary. For curriculum, you may do only cardio or you may only do pulmonary. So those 2 weeks that the other students are learning new material, you still have the ability to go over old material. So I
Mhm.
thought that would be better for me because it takes me a little bit of time to actually understand and sink the material in. So that happened, and I finally was able to figure out, what worked best for me. And I think that sometimes when you come into medicine, you have the tendency to compare yourself to others or feel overwhelmed by the amount of information that is coming at you like a fire hose. You never experience that amount of information, so you have to find what's best, that works best for you. So after I found what was best work for me, it was fine. It's basically history from there. And then semester 4, we got hit by Hurricane Maria.
Hmm.
So, and at that time, Hurricane Maria was only supposed to be a tropical storm. It was
Yeah.
supposed to just be a rain. It was going to go away because they haven't had a hurricane in years. So no one was really prepared for it. So, that day it went from in minutes, just tropical storm, category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, category 5. And I'm just like,
Uh,
what is going on? And literally, a lot of people lost everything. And just imagine, you're not home. I mean, some people had to carry their children on their backs because the amount of water that was in their homes. So, I mean, fortunately for me, I was at the very top of one of my buildings. So I didn't have, even though it was flooding because the rain was still coming up under the doors, we were just putting covers and all my comforters and clothes to keep the water out of the apartment. Even with being on the third floor, I still had damages. So I can only imagine the amount of people who were living on first floor. So we were basically stranded for about a week.
wow.
So the US government actually came and got us. And we were rescued and put on this ship. We were actually put on multiple like carnival ships and charter planes to come back to the US. So that was that.
Another little detour.
I'm sorry.
I said another little detour.
Another detour, which is basically my entire life story. So that happened. And then we temporarily relocated and I finished my basic sciences. And then after my basic sciences at that time, Ross, and basic sciences being basically the first 2 years of medical school. And so at that time, Ross stated that, which they have changed it from now, which I found out in a meeting a couple of days ago, that there was this thing called a comp. And a comp is a practice board exam. And you have to pass that practice board exam before you take the actual one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you have to take it basically the week or 2 weeks after you finish your semester. So, long story short, I was exhausted from, you know, the last semester and I just wasn't prepared for the comp exam. So I think I failed it like by 67 or something along those lines by a couple of points. And I was like, you know what, that's fine. I didn't really study for it anyway because I was so exhausted and trying to make sure I actually passed this semester. So I failed it. And then they have this time period in order for you to retake the comp exam. So the comp exam, you take basically a 2-month comp exam. I took it again, but I ended up having to move because when you're studying for those exams, you're not in any classes. And since you're not in any classes, you don't have financial aid.
Mm-hmm.
So where I was staying, I could not afford to stay there because I had no kind of income. I was technically not in school. So I had to move back home with my family. So the second time I took it, I failed it again because I was relocating and I thought that I could handle everything that was going on and I couldn't. So I was like, you know what? The third time around, I'm going to just sit here and not do anything. I'm not going to plan anything and I'm just going to study for it. So I studied for comp and I passed the third time. It was like a week after my birthday. So it was like a late birthday present. And then after that, so that was from May to September. So I was studying for a very long time. And
Yeah.
by the time I got to passing comp, I had to take the real exam. And at that time, I was extremely exhausted. And I was thinking that if I were to push it off, like, oh, I should push it off like a month, or I should push it off for a week. So give me time to like do a little bit of recovery and try to remember everything that I've studied. That didn't help. That did not help. I started forgetting more and more as much I was time pushing back. So I got my step one score and I was not, happy with it. So I got like zombied out and I was just like, man, like I really want to become a physician and this is gonna, alter my chances. Like it wasn't a bad score, but it just wasn't the score that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to put any numerical numbers, but I was below average.
Okay.
So, I wanted that step one score, especially being a US IMG, can either open doors or close doors. And some of the doors were going to be closed based off of that, of my score. So I passed step one and then I started my clinical rotations. And the way that Ross does it is that they have specific clinical sites all over the US that you can stay there for an entire year, for your entire third year, or your entire third and fourth year, depends on you. So I wanted to go to Atlanta Medical Center. So I chose to go to Atlanta Medical Center and I loved it. I
Mm-hmm.
loved the hospital. I loved the residents, the attendings, and everything. And basically, during that time, I went through all the core rotations like psych, IM, family, general surgery. What's the other ones? Um, OBGYN. And that was a really good experience. But the one that stuck out to me the most was internal medicine because as a child, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a pediatrician, like I said before. Oh, I want to do OBGYN. Then I became a scribe. Oh, I want to do emergency medicine. And then when I kind of knew about IM prior to going to medical school because of my uncle. My uncle unfortunately passed from multiple sclerosis, but I was able to see him during that gap year, constantly going in and out of the hospitals, working with internal medicine physicians as well as the internal medicine physicians consulting these team members to get the best adequate care. So I was like, that seems I have a personal connection with it because of my uncle. So let's see if it actually clicks for me when I'm actually doing it. And when I
Mm-hmm.
got into IM, I loved IM. Like
Yeah.
just everything clicked. There's just so many things that you can do with IM. And I really like that I didn't feel like I was by myself because
Nice.
internal medicine is all about teamwork, whether you're consulting a nephrologist, whether you're consulting surgery, whatever, everybody's putting their heads together to make the best options for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like my journey to internal medicine, long-winded, but that was my journey.
And when you were, taking interviews, how much of these things came up for you? Like, were any of the programs worried about, okay, multiple attempts on some of these exams or, the gap years, things like that? Did that ever come up for you in interviews?
So with the comps, comps is just for Ross. So no one else knows that we take comps.
Mm-hmm.
So the only exam that they saw was step one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that part never came up. But I had 13 interviews. Only one interview asked me, oh, I saw your step one score, but I saw your step two score, and your step two score was dramatically better. What happened in step one? And then I explained to him, like, I had a lot going on, and I thought that pushing back my exam would have been helpful, but it wasn't. So, and I took too much long of a gap versus step 2 CK. I passed comp the first time, I set a date and I stuck with the date, and that was that. So they asked me a lot about my gap year because I was doing so much
Yeah.
with
When did you sleep during that?
in my car. so I I wouldn't scribe. So I was basically part-time scribe and full-time research. So I would do scribing I would do about 3 or 4 times out of the week. So I would sleep, just maybe not every day.
Yeah.
Maybe not every day. It was more like naps. And at that time, I was super young and I was, taking Red Bulls and all this coffee. I don't take Red Bulls anymore, but I definitely had help with
Yeah.
Red Bulls and lots of coffee. So they didn't really ask me about that. I think that's another reason why I really liked IM. I really felt like they were trying to get to know me. Um, and one of the questions, which was very funny to me, that's why you have to be very careful what you put on your ERAS application. Anything you put on your ERAS application is fair game. And I
Hmm.
had one little sentence on my ERAS application that said, hey, I'm really into gaming. I have Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy SP, all these consoles. And I think 1 to 2 of my interviews spent the entire interview talking about gaming. So it's just like, so you have to be careful what you put on
Yeah.
on there. If you actually didn't do it, you're going to be looking crazy if you if you don't know what you're talking about. So I literally spent the entire interview with the program director about games.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a very good experience.
Good. And once you start pursuing internal medicine and you get through residency, what are you hoping to add to medicine itself or the internal medicine field? What are some of your goals as a physician?
So I have a little bit of personal goals and then institutional goals.
Hmm.
So my personal goal is to one, be the best intern and resident I could possibly be. And I say that because internal medicine has a lot of avenues of, fellowship programs, research. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with internal medicine. So my initial goal would be just becoming the best resident and making sure that my patients are taken care of and I know what I'm doing. That's the first thing. My other goal would be is once I'm actually making money, I want to start a scholarship program at my college for students that want to go into medicine
Hmm.
because I went to Prairie View A&M University in Houston, Texas, which is a historically Black college and university. And medicine as a whole is not as diverse as it should be. I think that we have made steps in order to increase the amount of diversity in medicine, but it's been very slow. I believe African Americans only make up 2% of physicians, as well as less than 10% from Hispanic, Latinos, Asian Americans. Majority of medicine is not as diverse. So I would like to provide, help and assistance for students who come from diverse minority backgrounds who want to become in medicine because I think who want to become a part of the medical field because I think that what is the word? I think that representation is very important. And I think if a child or a young adult who sees someone that looks like them pursuing medicine and they have the tools and the advice to get wherever they need to go, then they will be more open to that opportunity. Because I don't think that minorities are not applying to medicine. I just think that they don't have all the tools. I don't think they have the representation that they're looking for to say, like, hey, I can actually do this. So that would be my second goal. My third goal would be I really want to start uh, a almost like is which is kind of goes back to my first goal, which is the scholarship program. I really want to be involved with the community and where because I want to say the reason why I chose the reason why I chose the rankings that I did when I was doing my match because I want to stay there long term. So wherever I go, I want to start community outreach programs for children in that area. So mainly I would think those are my top three.
What do you feel is the most important thing that current physicians and future physicians can do to help make that representation more equitable?
Mhm. So I think for one, this is a great opportunity to allow me to, be like, hey, I may look like you and I'm still, pursuing medicine. So I think that taking these opportunities to speak with someone who has a larger platform about diversifying medicine or starting scholarship programs or starting campaigns or going to communities that are from a minority background to expose these different opportunities for the younger generation will also help. I think that communication and representation between, majority, minority populations, and just being involved in the community can go a long way.
Absolutely. Is there any way that people can help follow your journey and your path, to keep in touch and in contact with you as you're pursuing residency and all these amazing things beyond that as well?
Sure. I have a Instagram. My Instagram is doctor, just dr underscore my name is Sheri. It's MyNameIsSheri. And I also have a YouTube, which is my name is Sheri. And I also have an internet website where I go through specific some of the things that we've talked about on www.mynameissheri.com. So feel free to reach out. I try my best to respond to everyone, whether it's a comment on YouTube or a specific DM on Instagram.
Amazing. Do you have any final parting words or thoughts?
I would say, if anything, is do not compare your journey to others. I think in life, we have this idea of where we want to go and how we want to do it. And sometimes that may not pan out. But just because it didn't pan out the original way that you wanted to, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So I would say your journey is your journey. Just like one of my favorite professors has always told me, Dr. Quincy Moore at Prairie View, he said, because, at that time, everyone else was getting into medical school and I was sitting there like a sitting duck. And he said, you know what, Sheri, some people have to take the elevators to the destination and some people have to take the stairs. And in this case, you're taking the stairs, but you're still getting to the same destination. So I say all of that is to say that, your tribulations, your trials, your detours is a part of your own journey, and it's okay to own that. My journey may not be your journey, and your journey may be easier than mine, and that's fine. Or your journey may be harder than mine, and that's fine too. But be able to own that and know what you want in life and then just go for it. Don't have any regrets. You never want to look back on your life and say, oh, I should have tried this or I should have done it. So just own your trials and tribulations and just step forward in the right direction, even if you have to take the stairs.
You get more exercise with the stairs, right?
Right. Get your steps in. Who needs an elevator?
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and in such detail. I feel like it's so inspiring just for me. And I know that there's going to be so many people hearing your story that are also going to be inspired by it. So thank you so much for being here and sharing everything that you've shared with us.
Thank you. I'm super happy about the opportunity. I'm glad I was able to provide a conversation for people who may be still in that same situation I was when I was younger. So thanks again.